तस्य Anjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamsha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarani He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhesya Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So welcome to the Manah Shiksha series. Yesterday we had been discussing text 6 Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj commentary, and the theme was what is the connection between offense and cheating. So when you have this propensity to cheat, putinati, then you commit offenses. And then the whole series of how hypocrisy generates offense. And Jiva Goswami's quotation, how 100 offenses makes a person hypocrite. There's a saying also, tell a lie loud enough, long enough, and it will become truth. So you become a hypocrite, and that is your reality. So 100 offenses make one a hypocrite, and 1,000 offenses deprive a person to perform austerities in bhakti. And 10,000 offenses, you lose the opportunity to practice bhakti. So this is how offenses, slowly accumulated over a period of time. They act like this. And Mahaprabhu's example is given how the Mayavadi sannyasis, they could take the name of Brahman, but not Krishna, because they were aparadhis. Everything begins with a start, very innocent, with a slight tendency for deception, and then it starts growing. So two things, again, Maharaj mentions simplicity and determination. The Lord is absolute truth, Satyam Param, and we have to also be of the same nature if we have to attain Him. And even when the boy and the girl get married, if they are of not same nature, then there will be always conflict. So how much more it should be for the, we have to be of the same pure absolute nature as the Lord in order to attain the Lord. So Maharaj goes on to explain that this is the reason that how this whole phenomena is working and the connection he mentions about offenses, how deceit ultimately, how the weeds grow of deceit grow. They are the upashakas, uh, where find fault in others, and our knowledge of psychology helps in, you know, understanding the natures of others, and we find fault in others. So Prabhupada in that commentary in the Chaitanya Charitamrita mentions first is Kutinati and then Pratishta Asha, desire for recognition. And if somebody doesn't glorify for dressing the deities or giving a class, then we say, oh, all these Vaishnavas are all useless. They don't recognize me. So then comes, after Kutinati Pratishta Asha, comes Jiva Himsa. And this is represented by Agasur, the cruelty that he wanted to devour the friends of Krishna. So similarly, we perform cruelty to Vaishnavas. We think ill about them, we start speaking ill about them, and we try to cut their ego. And Maharaj is giving example of how Mataji came and complained about her husband that let me see where her ego is now, let me cut it. So this is how we can get into it. So yesterday we stopped our discussion here, and this is the last paragraph we discussed. So let us continue our discussion from here, where we completed up till Jiva Himsa. Maharaj also explains how sometimes, they write articles and other Vaishnavas find some trivial faults and condemn those articles, and all in the name of purity. And there is public flogging or public whipping done. And again, it is the psychology of other people that helps us to exploit others. So this is the root cause. So now from Kutinati to Pratishtasha and Pratishtasha to Jiva Himsa. And from Jiva Himsa comes Nishiddachar. So that's what next paragraph is going to deal. Under the pretext of devotional service, people sometimes simply exploit each other, saying that we should selflessly serve, but at the same time taking advantage of others, taking advantage of others. So you can see this, that in the name of service, you start taking service from others, but for your own purpose. It's not selfless service. This is a manifestation of Jiva Himsa. Srila Prabhupada described the next inevitable step in that purport to the Gundicha margin Leela. So in the Gundicha margin Leela, Prabhupada is explaining what will be the next step. This is called Nishiddachar. When a person loses the ability to follow the principles of bhakti, he loses the ability to follow the principles of bhakti. Why does this happen? Previously, they seem to have overcome all these bad habits and had been following the principles of bhakti over a long period of time. Then why this happened? However, at a certain point, they lose the ability to do this. It is not just because of anarthas. What happens at this point is that due to offenses committed, the mind fully focuses on matter and tears itself away from Krishna. So it's not because of the anarthas, it is because of aparadhs committed. And now the mind is completely focused on matter. It is mentioned, I don't have the exact reference, but I have read it, that when a person starts committing offenses, it is Narayan who in the heart of that person will implant material desires and he'll have more material attraction. So I'm just taking a small detour. This all discussion is there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and let us see what is there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructs Rupa Goswami about the Bhakti Lata Bij, how the Bhakti Lata Bij is received by the mercy of the pure devotee. Brahmande Brahmite Bhagyavanji, Guru Krishna Prasade Paye, Bhakti Lata Bij. And by Shravanadi Jal, this Bhakti Lata Bij starts sprouting up and then crosses this Brahmanda and ultimately reaches the lotus feet of Krishna and gives the fruit in the form of Krishna Prem. Then Mahaprabhu says, Yadi Uthe Vaishnav Apradhati Mata. But if while cultivating the Bhakti Lata Bij, if a Vaishnava commits aparad, which is compared to the mad elephant offense, then this Bhakti Lata will be uprooted. Chinde means it will be uprooted and the leaves of the Bhakti Lata will get dried up. So there, along with the Bhakti Lata, there will be upashakas which will grow. And Mahaprabhu describes that. Kintu yadi latara sange uthe upashaka bhukti mukti vanchayata asankhya tara lekha. So there is one thing about Vaishnav Aprad, which one has to be careful. The second aspect is upashakas. While nourishing the Bhakti Lata with Shravanadi Jal, there are other seeds which are the upashakas. Now these seeds are actually deep rooted in our heart. The seeds for bhakti, the seeds for mukti, the seeds for pratishtha asha, they're all there inside. And as the Bhakti Lata is cultivated, these seeds are also getting nourishment and they also come out. But when these seeds come out, you have to separate them and cut them. And this Manah Shiksha is teaching us how to cut them. Don't bathe in the donkey's urine, bathe in the nectar of Radha Krishna's pastimes. So this is cutting the upashakas. So what are these upashakas? The bhukti mukti vancha. Sometimes unwanted creepers, such as the creeper for desires for material enjoyment, liberation from the material world, grow along with the creeper of devotional service. The varieties of such unwanted creepers are unlimited. Yata sankhya tara leka. Asankhya. They're unlimited, they are. And then Mahaprabhu explains. Nishiddhachar kutinati jiva himsan labha puja pratisthasha yata upashakagan. So what are these upashakas? Mahaprabhu is giving these hints here. Some unnecessary creepers growing with the bhakti creeper are the creepers of behavior unacceptable for those trying to attain perfection. Nisiddhachar, diplomatic behavior, kutinati. And we have been discussing in Manah Shiksha kutinati. So first there is kutinati, animal killing, jiva himsa, mundane profiteering, labh, mundane adoration, puja, and mundane importance, pratisthasha. All these are unwanted creepers. So in Manah Shiksha, there is kutinati which is discussed, and kutinati leads to pratisthasha, pratisthasha leads to jiva himsa, and from jiva himsa, you do nishiddhachar. So that was the flow given by Maharaj. So although there is a sequence here is not mentioned, first is nishiddhachar, but Maharaj mentioned the sequence, kutinati, pratisthasha, jiva himsa, and nishiddhachar. Also, it can be that pratishtha asha is there, the desire for that I should be I should be glorified. And because I need glorification, I do diplomatic behavior, kutinati, and to attain that pratishtha asha, I might commit jiva himsa. And because of that, we commit offenses and then we go into nisiddhachar. So that's how the flow is, the whole connection is. Now let us see what Prabhupada has to say in this purport. This purport is very, very interesting. The Prabhupada's purport. If one chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra while committing offenses, these unwanted creepers will grow. Now, please remember, if you're chanting Hare Krishna and you're not chanting attentively, that means you're committing offenses, especially Namaprad also. Then what is happening? Instead of giving water to the Bhakti Lata, you're giving water to the Upashakas. The Upashakas will start growing more. Just like a farmer, he has cultivated the main crop, and instead of watering the main crop, he starts watering the weeds. So the weeds will get more water and they will grow more compared to the main plant. So if we are committing offenses, then the unwanted creepers go. One should not take advantage of chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantras or material profit, labh, as mentioned in verse 159. So Prabhupada is quoting the same verse, Nishidachar Putinati Jiva Himsa La Puja Pratishtadi Yata Upashakagan. The unwanted creepers have been described by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He states that if one hears and chants without trying to give up offenses, one becomes materially attached to sense gratification. Please mark this point. If one is hearing and chanting and he is not ready to give up the offenses in the form of Namaprad and Vaishnaprad, what will happen? One will become more and more materially attached to sense gratification. In the name, being a devotee, one may also desire freedom from material bondage like the Mayavadis, or one may become attached to the Yog Siddhis and desire wonderful yogic powers. Bhukti Mukti Vancha will come in. If one is attached to wonderful material activities, one is called a Siddhi Lobi, greedy for material perfection. So you have some skills and you start exhibiting in the association of devotees these skills, and you have this vancha. I want to become materially perfect. Siddhi Lobi. One may also be victimized by, or one may associate with women for illicit sex. All in the name of association with, in the association of devotees. Please remember that. In the association of devotees, all this is being discussed. I'll just change the connection because, yeah. Yes. One may also make a show of devotional service like the Prakat Sahajiyas, or one may support his philosophy by joining some caste or identifying himself with a certain dynasty, claiming a monopoly on spiritual advancement. So one may externally make show of devotional service like the Prakrita Sahajiyas. Thus, with the support of family tradition, one may become a pseudo guru or a so-called spiritual master. So sometimes, when we get certain following in the movement and we have the desire to become a guru, although we are not qualified, so we separate from the mainstream, ISKCON, and then because we have this following, we want to become self-claimed gurus. And with this following, we break up and become so-called spiritual master or a pseudo guru. And this has been seen, this has been observed within the society. One may become attached to 4 sinful activities. Now you can see, we came into Krishna consciousness, we gave up these 4 sinful activities. But if we don't give up Namaprad and Vaishnavaprad, the opposite can happen, that we become attached to these 4 sinful activities: illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating. Or one may consider a Vaishnava to belong to a mundane caste or creed. One may think this is a Hindu Vaishnava, this is a European Vaishnava. European Vaishnavas are not allowed to enter temples. In other words, one may consider Vaishnavas in terms of birth, thinking one is a Brahmana Vaishnava, another is a Shudra Vaishnava, another is a Mlecha Vaishnava, and so on. Now, don't think that this is not happening. There are many devotees who come and tell me that, I have heard this personally and I personally witnessed it. Oh, if you want to take initiation, take this initiation from this sannyasi who's Indian. He's Indian bodied. That sannyasi is Western bodied. So this Indian bodied sannyasi is more pure. What a nonsense this is. So this is all because of what, Prabhupada purports. It is there very clearly. So if you have this kind of a conception, then you're committing aparadh. You're committing aparadh. So Prabhupada is also speaking about all this in his purport. That's the point. One may also carry out professional business by means of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra or reading Srimad Bhagavatam, or one may try to increase his monetary strength by illegal means. Also, one may become a cheap Vaishnava by trying to chant in a secluded place for material adoration, puja, labha, pratishta. One may desire mundane reputation by making compromises with non-devotees concerning one's philosophy. So we saw initially in those pictures that a sannyasi is only preaching to the rich materialist and is associating with non-devotees. There is the Swanishta, Paranishtita, and the Nirapeksha. So all how they can bathe in donkey's urine. So all that is explained here. Or spiritual life, one may become a supporter of a hereditary caste system. All these are pitfalls of personal sense gratification. Just to cheat some innocent people, one makes a show of advanced spiritual life and becomes known as a sadhu, mahatma, or a religious person. All this means that the so-called devotee has become victimized by all these unwanted creepers, and that the real creeper, the Bhakti Lata, has been stunted. So we should be careful about these two things. One is, while cultivating the Bhakti Lata, we don't commit offenses because it is compared to the mad elephant offense. And the Upashakas also start growing. We need to uproot them. And right from verse 4 of Manushiksha, how to do that, Raghunath Das Goswami has been dealing with. So this is the small discussion which we took a detour. We'll come back now. The flow was given by Maharaj. Jeev Himsa, Kutinati Pratisthasha, Jeev Himsa, and then Nishijachar. Now, Maharaj gives an example about it. How, it happens, Nishidachar happens. So any questions up till now, what we have discussed? Any questions, any clarifications? Okay. Srila Prabhupada had a disciple who used to take LSD. Later on, he had achieved a very high position, but returned to LSD. Due to the tendency of deceitfulness, he started justifying his behavior. He said that LSD was the dust specks from the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. He said that when he took drugs, he became closer to God. He wanted to open a whole training center to teach others how to get closer to Krishna using LSD. There was one other ashram I knew about personally where all the discourses consist in discussing the fault of other Vaishnavas. There are many Vaishnavas and there are many faults too. So there were many topics of discussion. And they all said, we are for Prabhupada, we are for Prabhupada. They would still go on with Sankirtan. However, since the ashram is located in quite a cold zone, before going out on Sankirtan, They drink some vodka to Prabhupada in order to warm up and go out to distribute. Unfortunately, all this is true, and I am not exaggerating at all in this particular case. So Maharaj is speaking about his own personal experience, maybe in Russia, maybe somewhere there is this group. This is what Srila Prabhupada says, Nishiddhachar. You break the four regulative principles. And all started from where? Offenses because of Kutinati. From there. The next logical step, we lose the ability to follow the principles of pure behavior. And all this begins with the fact then that in one way or another, we focus on the faults of others. We focus on the fault of others. So this is where it all begins. In the next step, calm becomes completely uncontrollable and devours us whole. Mahashano Mahapapma Vidhi Iha Vairinam. A person in this situation naturally and gradually forms material tendencies in their mind. So I mentioned that the material tendencies become stronger. We have come to the path of bhakti in order to remove these tendencies, but we may be giving vent to the most subtle tendency of all, which is to relish finding fault in others. So the mind, the nature of the mind is to taste mundane rasa in the form of finding fault with others. That is the nature of the conditioned state of the mind. Step by step, it very soon becomes more and more gross. One problem is that a person at this point may not enjoy just ordinary calm, but may do so in a perverted way. Following calm is the demand to be worshipped. Puja Labha Pratishta. So Puja Labha Pratishta is not gross calm, but it is subtle calm. And that's why it is compared to subtle sex. Srila Jiva Goswami makes a similar analysis in his Bhakti Sandarbha, where he explains the consequences of aprad or offenses. He says that first, Kautilya, hypocrisy, appears in a person. So Kautilya is hypocrisy or kutinati, as it was mentioned. So when as the consequences of aprad, there is first what? Kutinati. Then ashraddha, faithlessness. After ashraddha, a quality appears that he calls Bhagavan Nishta Chavaka Vastu Antar Abhinivesha. A focus on external things that destroy our Nishta or faith in Krishna. Next is Bhakti Shaitilyam, where we cannot focus on bhajan because the mind is already completely elsewhere. So you can correlate to Kutinati, Pratishtasha, Jiva Himsa, and then Nisiddhachar. So Jiva Goswami is giving different terminologies. Kutinati, he is saying Kautilya. Kautilya leads to Ashraddha. Ashraddha leads to Bhagwan Nishta Chavaka Vastu Antar Abhinivesh. Focus on an external, and that becomes Bhakti Shaitilyam. Shaitilyam means we cannot focus on bhakti. After that, Swa Bhakti Adi Krita Manitvam. Pridefulness or pride for our own achievements in bhakti appear. We start competing with others. What does competition with other Vaishnavas mean? The very spirit of rivalry or jealousy towards other means that I want respect only for myself. The nature of bhakti is that it makes us willing to cooperate. Bhakti is love, and love means that I love everyone and I try to do things together with others. And that's why Prabhupada's last statement before leaving your love for me will be shown how you can cooperate with each other and take this movement ahead. So this is the root. Srila Prabhupada said, our love for him will be shown by the extent to which we will be able to cooperate with each other. The same statement I just made, I did not know it was here. Some may have misheard that to mean your love for me will be shown by the extent to which you will be able to compete with each other. Swabhakti kritam manitva or puja, the desire for honor or the desire that only I should be respected, is the final stage of Vaishnava Aparadh that happens to a person. Pratishta Asha, which will be the next verse in Manah Siksha. But Pratishta Asha is there, the desire for honor, puja la pratishta. Srila Prabhupada concludes this description by writing, therefore, one's heart is again filled with dirt and becomes harder and harder, thus starting to resemble the heart of a materialist. So here is Jiva Goswami's analysis. First, there is Kautilya or hypocrisy. Then there is Ashraddha. And then Bhagavad Nishta Chavaka Vastu Antar Abhinavesh. Focus on the external things that destroy our Nishta. Then Bhakti Shaitilyam. Cannot focus on bhajan because the mind is already completely elsewhere. And then Swabhakti Adhikrita Manitvam. Pridefulness or pride for our own achievements in Bhakti. I built this temple, I did so many books, distribution this year. I got, our temple is, number one in book distribution. So all this, is a source of pride. And right from first verse in the Manah Siksha, how we should give up this pride has been discussed. Okay. Any questions on this up till now, what we discussed? Any questions or clarifications? Yes, Renuka Mataji, Rasparani Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji Dandavat. So, when we say Nishiddha Achar and Namaparad, but Prabhupada has also said that even if a person without any attention of just they chant Hare Krishna, that's why we have this Hare Krishna mantra written everywhere, still they are benefited from it. So then what is the difference? Because initially the people who became devotees, who are exalted Vaishnavas today, Prabhupada disciples, so that there also many of them were into drugs, and then finally because of Prabhupada they got purified. But that time also, if in such cases people chant the holy name and there is Nishiddha Achar, or even for us, in fact, when we are chanting Namaprad is there. So then what is the difference at that point of time?
Okay, so I got a question. Initially, when we come to spiritual life, we have been leading a very sinful life. That's the general, trend in Kali Yuga. And we take up to Krishna consciousness, we start getting purified and start leading a pure life, following the four regulative principles. And while chanting, there are, generally because the chit is not pure, aparadhs do happen. So there is no problem in the initial phases of our spiritual life or initial years of our spiritual life. The real problem comes when we go high. At a certain stage in our spiritual life, when, we become a little advanced. And then we don't take care of all these upashakas. And in order for Pratishta Asha, we start committing what we start doing Kutinati, we start doing Jiva Himsa, because we are a recognized Vaishnava, everyone follows our orders. We, instead of serving the Vaishnavas, we start exploiting the Vaishnavas in the name of service to the mission and Prabhupada. And then we start committing Jiva Himsa. And then ultimately Nishiddhachar. So the problem is not in the beginning stages of our spiritual. The problem is when you really grow up. From there, the problems begin. And then you can glide down and then go into again, committing those 4 sinful activities vigorously. So here we have to take care. And that's why sincerity is very, very important. It's very, very important. So that's the point. I hope it is clear, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So I hope you got the whole flow here of Jeev Himsa. Abhishek Prabhuji has a question. Yes.
Thank you. With regards to the same question which Mataji asked now, and normally it is heard that when we start off with chanting, initial stages is like, again, it's going on in the dormant stage. But as we advance, all the anarthas start coming out. And
Yes.
then we start realizing the anarthas also that we are, we are doing, in the initial stage, we don't know that we are really committing the anarthas. So it
No,
is
no.
kind of like
Committing offenses or
but
anarthas?
the anarthas are there, which we are not aware of. But
Yes.
as we chant more and more, as we become more dedicated to devotional life, we start seeing that there are a lot of anarthas, and it comes out as in the shape of offenses also. So
Yes.
basically,
Yes.
so as we're advancing, I've heard in many classes of Maharaj, as they say, as we advance more, we are more aware of all the anarthas we are committing. So in a way, sir, whatever offenses we can say, it's the same as anarthas, or it's different from anarthas offenses.
Yes, I got your point. Usually, uh, the external cleaning, not the external cleaning, the cleansing starts happening with the chanting of the Hare Krishna. But as we make advancement and we start focusing on chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, uh, it's like now, there is something called as the tip of the iceberg. You thought, there is a small iceberg, and icebergs in the ocean sometimes, only 10% is exposed on the ocean. You say it's maybe just a tip of iceberg and you can cross it. But 90% of it is below there. It's very deep rooted. So at the conscious level of the mind, we see that, oh, we have got purified, we are free from all these, sinful tendencies like illicit sex, meat eating, and all that. But at the subconscious level, there are deep, deep rooted anarthas. And with attentive chanting, these all start coming out. These all start coming out. And that is the time, we start recognizing, my goodness, there is so much dirt inside me. And all these subtle dirts is what Raghunath Das Goswami is speaking about. That is the time you should, you are aware now. And that is the time that there can be deviations which can happen. That you can succumb to these upashakas and start watering these upashakas instead of now watering the main Bhakti Lata Bij. And that is where we need guidance of gurus, Shiksha gurus, Diksha gurus. Especially at a certain point in our spiritual life where, we are advanced and we are, having, we are recognized as a Vaishnava, we are recognized as a preacher or whatever it is. So that is the time we should be, guarding ourselves from these anarthas which come up. And these anarthas which come up, when they come up, we can succumb to it by committing offenses because of deception, because of kutinati, because of pratishtha. And then we do Jeev Himsa, and then that's how the gradual, the downward movement, which Jeev Goswami and Maharaj explained from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that's how it can happen. So, actually, in the sadhana stage, in the beginning stages, there is no question of fall down. There's no question of fall down because we are already fallen. It's somebody who is like a kid who is just trying to, walk. And kids, how many times they fall while trying to walk. So we are like that. But real fall down happens when we advance. It's like you're on the ground floor always walking, and sometimes you slip, you fall, nothing happens to you. But when you go on the 100th floor, and from there you slip, and then you fall down, then what happens? That's the real fall down. So the real problems are when you make advancement and you don't take care of the upashakas and the aparats. That is the time. So that is how one has to be in the association of devotees. One have to be surrounded. One has to fence himself by the sangha of very advanced devotees, shiksha gurus, spiritual mentors, spiritual masters, and one has to constantly introspect. One has to come under the subject of introspection of others, his well-wishers, so that they can point out and slowly uproot these anarthas, because these anarthas ultimately also can lead to offenses. I hope it is clear.
Yes, Prabhu. Uh, just can I ask one more question?
Maybe we'll take it at the end of the discussion, because I want to just finish this
Okay.
part today. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we saw this whole flow, how from Kautilya it leads to Ashraddha, and then absorption in the external, then complete cannot focus on bhajan, and then pride in achievements in bhakti. Commenting on this sixth verse of Manashiksha, Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that there are three kinds of Vaishnavas: Swanishta, Paranishta, and Nirapeksh. He says that a Swanishta Vaishnava is a householder who performs bhajan without regard to Varnashram. Their material tendencies begin to appear if instead of serving pure Vaishnavas, they start serving rich people. So why they start serving rich people? Because they can get some donation from them. Paranishta Bhakta is a householder who also follows Varnashram. When they are deceitful, then outwardly they show everyone how firmly they are following everything, while internally being unable to cope up with their material things. So externally they make a show of being very strict, but internally they are very much attached to material things. The Nirapeksha Vaishnava is one who has accepted renunciation, but might start collecting money from everyone as much as possible and associate with materialist all the time. So even for the Nirapeksha, who's in the renounced order, this can happen. Please remember that. In this verse, Raghunath Das Goswami asked, why would you bathe in this as urine? We should bathe in pure nectar. But the mind does not want to, because the mind has this innate tendency to take pleasure in mundane rasa in the form of finding fault with others. The mind has no attachment to Radha and Krishna. It has no attachment to thinking about them or reading about them. Prahlad Maharaj himself says that despite hearing about Krishna from others, despite trying to think about Krishna themselves, despite trying to achieve some combination of both, many persons' minds are unable to think of Krishna, and bhakti does not manifest itself in their hearts. Matirne Krishne parato satova mitopa abhipatte graha vratanam adanta gobir vishitam tamishram punascharvita charvananam. So Matirne Krishna, my mati is not going towards Krishna. Why? Because by my own endeavors or others' endeavors, because graha vratana. That is the reason we are attached to the material. Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains why a person does not get spiritually attached, and instead the uncontrolled senses lead to hell. Punascharvita charvana. Again and again we chew what has already been chewed. Inside we have a certain subtle concept of ego which we have not given up. even having taken up to the path of bhakti. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that there is only one solution, humility. If we have taken up the path of bhakti, we must surrender with complete humility. So this is the solution only, because uh, the only way we can conquer this subtle concept of the false ego, because of which, I mentioned that false ego has this different facets in the form of pride, is humility. Trinadapi sunichena tarorapi seshnam amanina mananina. We have to come to this point. That is the only solution. Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in his purport to this verse of the Manah, as soon as the mind allows trivial thoughts to come in, immediately deception or hypocrisy appears. Hypocrisy starts attacking the soul again. When one's heart has become completely cleansed by humility, it will never again open its doors to deception. So this is exactly, Maharaj is exactly paraphrasing Bhaktivinoda Thakur's commentary here. So if there is no humility in the heart, then there is deception. So the only solution seems like, we have to cultivate that humility. So the last theme Maharaj comes to is humility and our relationship with Guru. So this is the last theme which we will take up. We need one single attribute, complete, absolute humility. In this humility, I must fold my palms and say, yes, I am fallen. Amara Jivan, Sada Pape Rata, Nahi Koi Punyara Lesh. This is a song written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur of how a person who has become introspective, actually is self-realized. He has realized that he's transcendental to the body and the mind. And he's seeing now, with that purified mind, all his anarthas. In fact, an entire real picture of all his previous sinful activities, what he had committed, is displayed to him on the mind screen. And this soul now is crying out, I am a sinful person. Amar Jivan Sada Pape Rata. And now he is developing genuine humility of the soul. This happens at the stage of Nishtha. Now, I've been hearing this bhajan, Amara Jivan Sada Papera, from 2012. It's 2023 now, 11 years. But still, there's no much transformation. Because only one who is on the stage of Nishtha, he has developed that genuine humility of the soul, and he's able to see in his mind screen all his sinful activities, what he has committed in the past lives also. Sometimes Krishna can show that, and even in this life. And then he cries out, actually. He really cries out. This self-realized soul, who is on the stage of Nishtha, has actually developed the humility of the soul. And he has now conquered these anarthas in one sense, and major part of the anarthas. And he is now on the path ahead towards perfection. So the solution is that one has to completely develop this humility, practice it at least in the sadhana stage, if he is not at that level where he is able to realize it. I mentioned about, if you remember, 3 levels of humility. One is humility at the bodily platform, that although my false ego is not ready to bow down to Vaishnavas, I still bow down so that I can become humble. Then intellectually, developing humility, and then humility at the platform of the soul when one is self-realized. So until one is at that point, at least he should develop intellectual humility and humility at the level of the body. But I do not want to be like this anymore. This attitude constitutes honesty to ourselves. So this attitude of developing honesty towards ourselves is what is to be cultivated. This complete humility begins with my surrendering this most subtle concept, my false ego, to my Guru. So, I mentioned that at the stage of Nishtha, one is almost free from the gross and subtle coverings of the ego also. And one has developed this humility. And that is Sharnagati. Sharnagati begins from there. Actually, at the stage of Nishtha, one is a Madhyamadhikari, and uh, surrender begins from there. And from there, pure devotional service actually begins. So there, Shuddha Bhakti is where the beginning of Shuddha Bhakti starts. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. In our relationship with Guru, we must practice humility of body, mind, and speech. Guru will give us someone or a connection with Krishna. Through the connection with the spiritual master, I will become aware of my connection with Krishna. When I have a relationship with Krishna, I will develop interest in everything related to Krishna. We must actually understand what the Guru likes and doesn't like and act for the Guru, not for oneself. So Sharnagati means Anukulisya Sankalpa, Pratikulisya Varjanam. Otherwise, in the conditioned stage, Raga Dvesha Vimuktestu. At the level of the mind, Raga, we have attraction to what we like, and Dvesha means we are averse to what we don't like. From this conditioned state, to go to the paradigm shift of Sharanagati, of surrender, where we do what the spiritual master likes. And for the false ego, it might be difficult, but still we do it. That requires humility. That requires humility for us to do that. The humility that appears in the mind is when a person does not act out of self-interest, but rather wants to serve and do what the other person wants us to do. This is a very, very, very exalted state. Please think about it. Please meditate on this statement. With no actual relationship with the spiritual master, this attitude is practically impossible because we will still continue in one way or another to retain our subtle pride. Sooner or later, it will grow more and more. The subtle will then become gross. Bhakti means to find this problem in ourselves and start dealing with it. So what is bhakti? When we start identifying this problem in ourselves and we can start dealing with it. So this is the inner battle of the heart, which we have to all battle. Just like Arjuna had to face that battle of Kurukshetra. And this is our own inner battle with our ego, which we have to battle. Therefore, sadhana bhakti starts with Guru Padashraya Tasmat. We must go to the spiritual master and take shelter of his lotus feet. We must give up everything else. Guru Padashraya Tasmat. After that comes Krishna Dikshadi Shikshanam. We must take Diksha. People think that they have received Diksha and now they are free to go. So this is a conception. And I remember once there was a initiation ceremony happening in a temple. And those who had come for initiation, I saw them for the first time. And after the initiation ceremony, I never saw them again. So Diksha is not that a one time you come and you take initiation and it's over. You're free to go. No, that's not Diksha. I have been given a name, my beads, and that's it. It's finished. But after Diksha, we must receive Shiksha. So initiation means it is the beginning. You should start now coming regularly and start taking Shiksha. Diksha was given to young boys who started studying the scriptures. Diksha is the first step. But we can have a misconception that Diksha is the last step and it's done. Once we take Diksha, it's over. Shiksha means I try to do what we are told. We try to serve not ourselves, but what we are told by the spiritual master. As a result, humility appears. So this is how slowly humility will appear. If I'm doing what I want to do, then we are acting on the false ego. Prakritiya kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasha ahankar vimudatma karta aham iti manyate. We are acting on the false ego. Humility allows us to attain sambandha or relationship with Krishna through our relationship with the spiritual master, because it is the spiritual master alone who gives this connection. Without connection, there is nothing. The meaning of our relationship with Guru is not to make yet another cult of personality. Srila Prabhupada warned us against this in a letter to Govinda Dasi. So this relationship with the Guru, also you can have another personality cult. So Prabhupada warned about this in one of the letters to Govinda Dasi. In her letter, Govinda Dasi had written to Srila Prabhupada saying how she loved him. Srila Prabhupada replied, I liked very much those beautiful feelings you have described in your letter. However, we should never forget that all our activities are carried out in accordance with the parampara originating from Lord Krishna. Therefore, your love must be directed not so much towards the physical manifestation of the Guru, but towards the spiritual message he carries. See, Prabhupada, how fine he was, in correcting the disciple. He first of all acknowledged that, your sentiments, feelings are beautiful. And Prabhupada said, I like it. But then Prabhupada, made it more clear that, our activities should be carried out in the Guru Shishya Parampara, and your love should not be to the personality of the Guru, but to the message of the Guru, to the instructions of the Guru. By lovingly serving the teachings of our Guru, we prove our love for his physical manifestation. Srila Prabhupada said, we must be devoted not to the cult of the personality, but devoted to what he teaches and surrender to what he teaches. We must overcome this most subtle obstacle that envelops our soul, because if we do not remove it, ultimately it will prevent us from truly hearing about Radha and Krishna. Now, I would like to make a point here. I have heard it from also one sannyasi. It's very clear. There are many disciples of Srila Prabhupada who were very close to Prabhupada, and they served very closely also Prabhupada. And most of them, later on, they could not follow the regulative principles, or they could not, make extreme advancements in Krishna consciousness. And there are other disciples of Srila Prabhupada who did not have much, association also with Prabhupada. But they followed his instructions and they made tremendous advancement, and they also some of them became sannyasis. But there is other cases where many were very, very close to Srila Prabhupada, to his personality, but they could not make, some could not follow the regulative principles also, and some left the movement also, and some could not really make that advanced stage, make that progress of advanced Krishna consciousness. So just by closely serving also Prabhupada, they had love for Prabhupada and they served closely Prabhupada. But Prabhupada is making that point very clear here, that you should not be much attached to the physical manifestation of the Guru, but towards his instructions. So that's why I, a little more clarified, and this I have heard, and practically we have seen that. So we must overcome this subtle obstacle. If we attain this Samman or humility, if we attain love for Krishna, then everything else will come. Raghunath Das Goswami is teaching us here to very honestly and frankly see the deceit in ourselves. We must take devotional service very seriously. It is never too late to start. Krishna is infinitely merciful and can give us complete happiness. Therefore, in our bhajan, we must show two qualities: honesty or simplicity, frankness. The second is determination to go to the end by any means. If we have these two qualities, we will certainly be successful on this wonderful path of bhakti. So that ends Maharaj commentary on this sixth verse. It was quite in-depth analysis of this, Kutinati. But the solution is very clear. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur has pointed out, it is simplicity and determination. So any questions or clarifications up till now? Yes, Virendra Yadav Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhu, just one clarification.
Yeah.
This determination, Prabhu, is it having some link with having achiever mode?
I'm not able to hear you.
Prabhu, I'm saying that this determination, has it have any connection with having achiever's mood? Whereas we say that we should always be in receiver mood.
Okay, this determination is naturally springing out from the transcendental platform. Vyavasayatmika buddhi eke hi kuru nandana. So one who is fixed in the goal, eke hi kuru nandana. So determination is the function of the intelligence. And it is specifically the spiritual intelligence which is fixed on the self. So there is material intelligence and spiritual intelligence. Material intelligence means that intelligence which is directed by the senses and the mind. So the senses see the sense objects, and the sense objects, dictate the mind, and the mind dictates the intelligence to achieve those sense objects. That is material intelligence. But spiritual intelligence is when the intelligence is under the dictation of the soul. So that is spiritual intelligence. And this is again springing up from humility. So this is not in achiever's mode. This is in being fixed in, our goal. That is, I have to become pure. I have to become Krishna conscious. So that has nothing to do with, the competition mood of, I am the best, I should be recognized. No, I'm humble, but I'm very determined also at the same time. So that is coming from spiritual intelligence and not, in the achiever's mode. I hope it is clear.
Thank you, bro. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, so we finish text 6 today. In the next week's sessions, we will begin the last of the subtlest anarthas, which is Pratishta Asha. And this is the root from where everything, manifests. So Raghunath Das Goswami is going to speak in verse 7 about it, and we will see the commentary of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and the contemporary Acharya's commentaries on this, which will take at least 6 to 7 classes. And that is like a complete discussion of Anarth Nivritti and what is the Arth Pravritti. The remaining verses are quite simple, where after you have crossed this Anarth Nivritti, and then now you are more focusing now on the goal, how to attain the Prayojan, which Raghunath Das Goswami will start speaking from specifically verses 9, 10, and 11. And more in verse 8, he mentions how he's, how he lacks the qualification, but he still aspires for that highest goal. So that we will start discussing from the next week's session onwards from verse 7. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami ki Jai. Shri Manah Shiksha ki Jai. Hare Krishna.